Invite the breath to expand and to relax the body. And imagine yourself in a mountain meadow. During a lazy afternoon. And though there may be a stream running through or breeze through the trees, or some squirrel chatter or bird song, feel into the overall quiet of the place. No humming refrigerator or beeping phone, honking cars. Let yourself just reside for a few moments in this mountain meadow. Listening to the natural sounds and the quiet that encompasses them. Thich Nhat Hanh says, all the wonders of life are already here. They're calling you. If you can listen to them, you will be able to stop running. What you need, what we all need, is silence. Stop the noise in your mind in order for the wondrous sounds of life to be heard. Then you can begin to live your life authentically and deeply. Listen for a moment to the wondrous sound of your own breath. Feel for the expansion of the inhale and the contraction of the exhale. Pay attention to the physical sensations of this pulsation. In yoga, this spanda. Invite your mind's concentration to focus on these sensations of breath and body. And see if the mind can become quiet as it observes the sensations. Invite the mind to continue witnessing throughout this practice. Now feel in your body for any noise, any tissue that's speaking to you, any part of you that's agitated, tense, sore. Perhaps these parts are like children asking for attention. Can you give them some attention? And invite them to relax, to release or to open, to quiet. And listen for the expanding silence inside. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts and bow our heads. May we listen in to this quiet, this silence that's always there. And may we invite the loud voices, the noise, to grow quiet so we can pay attention to this silence. Namaste. Okay, let's come to standing. Izzy and I were both disturbed by something that fell over in the kitchen. She came running over to me right at the end of that. There was a noise, wasn't there, Izzy? Okay. So let's come to standing. Mountain pose. And let's begin by bringing some vibration into the body. Let's bounce at the knees, bounce the arms, let go of the hands and fingers, and shake. Really try to let the arm bones bounce away from the shoulder girdle. Part of what we want in the practice is space. That quiet can help us realize where we do and don't have space. So let the arms shake out to the side, shake up overhead. Let the hands continue to shake and the legs continue to bounce. And notice as your knees bounce, do your toes grip? Try to come to a place where the four corners of the feet are grounding and the toes are relaxed, even as you bounce the body and bounce the arms. You get the energy, the prana flowing. We're releasing it right now from the fingers. They may grow cool, or they may actually have the sensation of emptying as the lymph and blood drain down into the palms, wrists, and forearms. And we shake. We did a lot of shaking in our retreat at Esalen, inviting the energy to move, the lymph to flow. Let's now grow still, hands still held high. And as the body grows quiet, feel into the sensations inside in the inner landscape. See if you can stay aware of your roots. You may pick up your feet and lengthen them a little bit and widen them a little bit. Stay aware of your roots as you open your arms into cactus position. And exhale, pinkies towards each other, cat curling the spine for an inhale. And exhale, the movement, opening the hands, lifting the heart, rooting the tail. And then inhale. And exhaling the movement and inhaling into the position. Invite that concentration, the dharana, the mind quiet so it can really listen to the sensations in the body. listening inward with curiosity. And then come back. Hands, palms open, stretching the elbows wide. Root your feet and grow tall through the spine, lining up palate over heart over pelvis. A fluid, three-dimensional breath. And step the feet wide. And turn the left foot out and the right heel out and open into your star pose. Let that hot air balloon still lift you. And pause here. Feel for balance side to side. So from the center of the pelvic floor, root into each foot evenly. And then bend the front knee, still rooting into the back leg. Beautiful. And then inhale, palms up. And exhale, draw the energy right down. Follow the breath, inhaling and exhaling. And settle back in again to witnessing sensations. Feeling for that quiet inside. And if there's agitation or noise, noticing it. Bringing your hands to your heart, open them wide, Virabhadrasana 2, resting your gaze lightly out over the fingertips. Feel in again from the pelvis to rooting evenly into both legs. Looks like really nice alignment. Those of you I can see, really beautiful. Bring your left hand to your femur, right arm alongside the ear, and lengthen from pelvic floor up the spine. And if you'd like to come lower, do. Contract on the exhale into the center pelvis and inhale. Lengthen, stretch, root the feet. And exhale, relax in the contraction. And inhale, stretch. Feel the spanda. Invite the mind to concentrate on the sensations of the pulsation. If adding the ujjayi breath, the inhaled ah and exhaled ha, helps you to relax the mind, then do so. And then exhale and pause in a quiet Parsvakonasana. Check in that your toes aren't gripping, that your femur bone is aligned with your tibia bone, and rooting the feet, float back up, lifting the left palm skyward, dancing warrior, or relaxing at the base of the shoulders, quieting the muscles in the body. Maybe that means you come out slightly to the place where you can effort without over-efforting. See if the body can hum gently instead of grip or argue. And then exhale back up to your Viratu, straightening the front leg. Fold forward into your Trikonasana. High Trikonasana, again, rooting evenly into both legs. See if you can grow the spine a little longer. It's not about how low you come. It's about how much length you get from pelvic floor through top of head. Yes, beautiful. Let the energy run through the pose. And then keeping the front leg straight, lift the left palm skyward, coming into your dancing triangle pose. Feel into how you root from the pelvis to offer support to the lumbar spine. It may mean that you shift the pelvis a little, come out of the twist a little, support the length of the spine so you can quiet into this new pose. And then exhale, arms up and turn the left leg in and the right leg out, star pose. Bending the front knee right out over your second metatarsal, clean lines to the pose, Virabhadrasana 2. Turning the palms up, we inhale. Draw that quiet right into the body. Feel into the quiet strength of your roots. And then open your arms wide and rest into your Virabhadrasana 2. Check in that your toes are quiet. Relax your fingers. Quiet your shoulders, your jaw, the muscles of the face. And then right hand to femur, left arm along ear from the center pelvis, pulse outward and contract inward. And perhaps you come to the forearm and pulse outward and contract inward. But we don't over effort in the stretch. We make sure we don't lock the knee backwards or grip the front toes or overextend with the wrist and fingers. Fluid breath. And then we root into the four corners of the feet and float back up, dancing warrior. Rooting from pelvis into the four corners of each foot. Breathing an easeful length to the spine. If you find overgripping, come out a little bit. Quiet the muscles that are overworking. Exhale. Lifting the arms straight in the front leg, cartwheel into your Trikonasana, lengthening out of your rooting legs. Really find length up all sides of the lumbar spine. Fluid breath. Back leg femur right over tibia. Exhale, keeping the legs straight. Come into your dancing triangle pose. Where can you relax into a quiet pose? Invite the mountain meadow into the posture. And exhale up and turn the right leg in and step together and pause. Fluid breath. Okay, let's come to the wall and bring our fingers high up the wall, wider than the shoulders, and come to the balls of our feet and feel from big toe ball mound across to pinky toe ball mound, across the transverse arch. And then exhale. Slowly float your heels down. Feel for the sensation of opening in the lumbar spine, in the thoracic spine of the rib cage. And then walk your pelvis back, coming to fingertips long from tailbone to top of head. And float one leg up behind you, Virabhadrasana 3. Keep supporting the pose from underneath. Lifted toes turning towards the floor. Four corners of the standing feet, foot rooting, toes relaxed. Try to find stillness in the pose with your fingers on the wall, and then perhaps you lift off or lift some of your weight off. Where can you release tension in the pose? Perhaps the shoulders. Perhaps the over-efforting of the lifted foot. And then step down, walk in, and take a standing cobra. Isometrically drawing the hands down, lift the spine, root the tailbone. Make sure the pelvis is grounded over the femur bones and open the heart. Can the shoulder blades lift the heart from behind? Can you imagine someone tractioning the base of your skull, lengthening the neck? Then pause in the pose and ask yourself, is there any part speaking to me that wants me to modify? Any voice that will grow quieter if I listen? And release to Tadasana, reaching your hands up one more time. Lift to the transverse arch and slowly lower your heels. Take your time. Listen into the body and invite space. And then walk back into your half dog. Find your roots, your neutral curves to your lumbar spine. Maybe the neck lives above the arm bones, and float your foot up behind you, rooting the four corners of your feet. Nice length through your spine, John. That's beautiful. Fluid breath. If you're standing pretty parallel to the floor, make sure your neck is long. You're not looking up. Your gaze is at the floor. Beautiful. Fluid breath. Maybe your hands lift off. Very nice. Lovely how your toes are pointed towards the floor, Susie. Really nice alignment in your back leg. You too, Anna. You too, Sharon. Yes, all of you. You too, John. Fluid breath. Length from heel to head. And then exhale. Step down and walk in and take your standing cobra. Fingers about the height of your shoulders. Beautiful. Arm bones parallel to the body. Isometrically draw down as you lift your heart. Shoulders broad. Feel into the pose. Is there any place you can quiet the muscles? You can quiet the effort. Let your hyoid bone rest back, the back of the neck lengthen. Beautiful. And release. Turn your back to the wall for a moment and let's broaden across the shoulder girdle and press the humerus bones back into your wall. Make sure the head of the arm bone gets to press back. The length of the arm bone back. And remember, this does not have to be at 100%. This could be at 60%. Root into the four corners of your feet. Lift your toes, lift your arches. Feel all three arches. Relax the toes. Feel up from the arches of the feet and the support of the bones of the ankle to the knees. Align the femur bone over the tibia. And feel from the pelvis sitting on top of the femurs up through the spine to the head. And nod the head no. And nod the head yes. And then pause. Feel into your three-dimensional breath. Root evenly into the four corners of each foot. Breathe a lift to the heart. Notice if the body's agitated because you're over-efforting. Release a little of the effort while you maintain the work. And then stepping on to one foot more fully, lift to the toe of the other. You can stay here working that tailbone rooting and lift to the heart or lift the knee. You can stay here or straighten the lifted leg. Fluid breath wherever you are. Draw in the banks of your river to help lift through the pelvic floor. You may hear more noise in the body, and then release. Pause in this mountain pose with the heart open, the collarbones broad, the humerus bones back. Check in again with your feet and your knees. Make the standing foot broad and open and lift to the other toe. And float the knee up. Hug in the banks of your river and maybe lengthen the leg. Can you stay long from the four corners of the standing foot up the leg, all the way through the crown chakra? And release the lifted leg and pause away from your wall in your mountain pose. Palate floating over heart, over pelvis. Let your consciousness roam through the body, listening, inviting silence. Now, lift to one toe, rooting the standing foot, and turn your knee out towards kickstand. Lifting your arms, if you'd like to, you could be a weeping willow or an oak or a pine. You choose. Some of you may just lift the toes and practice balance there. Some may draw the foot onto the calf or up to the inner thigh. Press from inner thigh to foot, foot to inner thigh or inner calf, or heel into shin bone. See if you can stay with your three-dimensional breath and become a tree in the forest. Notice if your mind gets noisy as you try to balance and critique. Acknowledge that voice and then invite in the curious child. Feel into grounding all four corners of the standing foot and which corner doesn't want to ground. Feel into a gentle length upward and see if you can relax into the pose. And bring the knee forward and step down, mountain pose. Really concentrate even here on balance. Let's roll forward to the toes. They can grip right now for a moment. Let the toes help keep you from falling over. And then roll back to the heels and the toes, and even the balls may lift off. What parts of the body activate to keep you standing? And let yourself play. And then come back to the four corners and lean to the right. Feel the outer edge of the right foot, the inner edge of the left. Root those and lengthen. And then roll across the sole of the foot to the left and feel the shift to the inner edge of the right foot, the outer edge of the left, and root and lengthen. Now come back centered over the four corners of each foot. Lift onto the transverse arch of one foot and stretch the heel back behind you. Imagine you're opening a bird talon back behind you. Set the foot down, lift the other foot, stretch back, reach the bird talon back behind you and set it down. Four corners of each foot grounding. Feel into even pressure from the pelvis into the feet. And come to your other side. Draw the heel in or the foot onto the calf or the foot onto the inner thigh and float your arms into whatever tree you'd like. You may engage the banks of the river to create an outer container for the inner spine. Palate floating over heart, over pelvis. Relaxing on the exhales. Can you quiet the pose? And bring the knee forward. Step down, mountain pose. Try to really stay concentrated on the sensations inside, relaxing your hands and wrists, feeling into any pulsing or blood flow inside the body. Mind quietly concentrated on sensation. Let's reach for our blocks or our chair seat or pieces of furniture and let those be forward for a wide-legged forward fold. Taking the legs out and the heels a tiny bit wider than the toe box. Bring your hands to your hips once your blocks are settled. And bring your thumbs around back, your index fingers resting on the ilium bones, the top of the pelvis. Now draw your elbows around back a little bit and root your tail, stretching the chest open. Lift the heart. Root the tailbone and lift the heart. Ground the four corners of the feet. Lift the arches. Hug in the banks of your river. Can you grow taller? And then can you rest into a quiet in this heart opener? Feel the breath stretch the tissue. And exhale, hollow your groins back, hinge from the pelvis, and bring your hands down to your props. Either step your pelvis back or walk your prop forward and come into a wide-legged downward dog. Fluid breath. Now, some of you may be more in a wide-legged tabletop, keeping the spine long, supported by the pelvic floor, supported by length along the front of the spine. Deep and fluid breath. As we come into forward folds, one of the dangers is to overstretch the top of the hamstring at the sits bone. So make sure you're not feeling too much of a stretch there. All of us can avoid that stretch by reaching the buttocks down towards the heels a little bit, especially when we come up out of these poses. Rock gently across your shoulder girdle. Fluid breath to stretch the tissue. Settle into the pose. And then walk your blocks back in right beneath your head. Remember, if you're taller, you might want your blocks higher. Bring your right hand onto the prop, and your left arm opens like a wing, left shoulder blade onto the back body. Rooting into the feet, lift the left hand, reach the right sit bone back. Fluid breath. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Strong in your standing arm, making sure you're not hyperextending the elbow. We exhale and release the wing and float the right wing out. Right shoulder blade strong on the back, grounding evenly into the four corners of both feet. We lift the wing. Rooting into the left arm, we lengthen the wingspan. Feel the breath. And exhale, release the right wing and float back up to standing. Hands on the pelvic rim, thumbs to the back, elbows back, root down into the feet and lift the heart. Hug in the banks of your river and lengthen the side bodies more. Keep the neck long. And feel into this pose to where you can effort without over effort. And exhale to standing and step the feet in and pause in mountain. Where can you relax and quiet the pose? Let's inhale, float your arms up and bring your right hand over your left and bring your hands back to back. Bring the thumbs right up to your sternum for another Virabhadrasana 3. Holding the thumbs in towards the sternum, step 1 foot back. Maybe you'll leave the toe just above the floor and practice here. Maybe you'll hinge a little farther. Maybe you'll hinge all the way to Virabhadrasana 3. Fluid breath. And exhale. Release back to standing. Release the arms. Inhale them wide and let the left hand come over the right. Hands back to back, thumbs to the sternum. And as you're ready, take the next foot back. And exhale, begin to hinge over the top of the femur bone. Stay strong up the front of the spine, long into the lifting leg. And exhale, back to standing and release. And roll one shoulder up, down, and back, and the other. And relax side to side, remembering the 70% of water in your body. Fluid breath and movement, perhaps the elbows come in. We open the fascia. Feel into the quiet movement of the water of your own body. And release the arms down and float the arms wide. And let the right arm come over the left and come into your eagle arms, whether that's crossing at the wrist or a full cross. Take your elbows away from the body and fingertips skyward. And exhale. Slowly begin to twist to the left. Breathe in behind the right shoulder. The head can continue the twist if it feels okay in your body, and you can look out the far left corners of your eyes. Find balance foot to foot. Find balance of your palate over your heart, over your pelvis. And exhale, unwind and release the arms and roll the shoulders. And float the arms up and bring left arm over right and come into your chosen Garudasana arms. And inhale, lengthen your pose. Lift the fingers a little, take the elbows away. Check in that your knees aren't hyperextending before you begin to twist to the right. Keep track of pelvis, heart, and palate. Fluid breath. The head can continue, and you can even look out the far right corners of the eyes. But notice if you take it too far into the twist, the body will get noisy. Let the breath fill the pose and stretch you open. And exhale. Unwind and release the arms and roll the shoulders. And pause again in mountain pose. Relax for a few moments into a standing meditation. And bring a block in to the left side, to the outside of your left toe. Make sure that your foot is just part way forward up the block so that your right foot will have the platform of the block to stand on for Garudasana. And then inhale into your flying eagle, lifting and lowering. You can keep the front toe on the floor if you need to. One of the most important parts of this movement for us is the bending of the standing knee out over the second metatarsal. That will help you strengthen the knee joint. So if you need to keep your toe on the floor to do that, that's more of a priority than lifting the leg off. You're getting lots of balance work today. We inhale and exhale. And as you're ready, inhale up and float the right leg over, right foot landing on your block. Draw the legs into one another, and if you'd like, lift the right foot off the block. Fluid breath. You can keep the foot just hovering over the block in case you need it. Relax the shoulders and bring the left arm over the right into your chosen eagle arm pose. Fluid breath. Come back into noticing the four corners of the foot, the work of the banks of your river. And if you'd like, exhale, elbows in towards the belly, and release your wings and take flight and land. Mountain pose. Invite in deep three-dimensional breath. See if you can feel the breath expanding the back lungs. Expanding the side lungs. Expanding the heart center. Notice if your breath makes you tense on the inhale. If it does, don't inhale quite as much. Relax on the exhale. Clear down to your fingers and toes. And then take your block across to the outside of the right foot. And as you're ready, come into your flying eagle. Fluid breath. So we're moving a little slower today to take time to ground for these balance poses. And let's inhale up and land the left leg over. Pausing, hugging the legs together. Bring the right arm over the left. Garudasana. Let your palate rest over the heart, over the pelvis. Perhaps the left foot floats up, or it just lifts a little weight from the block. Feel into the pose. And exhale. Invite the elbows to come lower. If you like, release your wings and float and land. Mountain pose. Fluid breath. Let the body float for a moment in a quiet walk around your space. Just let it move again after that standing stillness. See how easeful the walk can be. That is a lot of work for your feet that we've done so far. And we're going to do one more series here. Okay. Let's walk back to our wall for runner's stretch. You can either bring in your chair to place your foot on, here like this, or you can bring your hand up into your yoga strap, TheraBand, or foot. Your foot up into your TheraBand strap or hand. And then allow the knee to fall towards the floor as you lift from pubic bone through navel towards heart. Lift the gaze, open across the collarbones. Fluid breath. Feel into the four corners of your standing foot, and if you need to, work to widen the foot and lengthen the foot. Create a good base. The whole focus here is to reach the knee forward and lift the heart, broadening across the shoulders, opening the quad. Good. Make sure the lifted foot is active, so you can slightly roll it out into the hand. Yep, with the pinky toe side. Beautiful. Fluid breath. And then release. And let's lift to the next side. Fluid breath. Lifting the heart as you let the tailbone root. Energy running from the pelvis down the bent knee and up to the heart, up through the crown chakra, open across your collarbones. Let it be a front chest stretch. Make sure the back of your neck stays long, even as you gaze up towards the mountaintop. Beautiful, fluid breath. Is there any way for you to quiet this pose? And release. Now come back to your mat with your chair and your bolster so that we can come into camel pose practice. We'll begin with a seated camel, where we come forward on the seat and draw one leg underneath. One leg stays with the knee at a right angle to support us, and I like floating my sit bones off the front of the chair because I have enough flesh to hold me on. So you can feel into that. We reach straight down the leg that's beneath us. Some of you will hold the arms of the chair. Some may want to bring blocks in on the chair. Some may come to your palms or your metacarpal arch, the index finger to pinky finger arch. Fluid breath. Each inhale, let the heart lift away from the releasing knee. Broad across the shoulder girdle, long in the neck. Feel into the four corners of your standing foot, the three arches. And release. Take the next foot under. Reaching the knee earthward, lifting the heart, lengthening the spine. Try various positions if you like, coming on to your metacarpal arch or to the arms of the chair. Keep lifting through the lumbar spine, opening the heart. Broad across the shoulder girdle, shoulder blades can lift the heart. Is there any way you can quiet the pose? And exhale. Release back to sitting for a moment, hands resting on your femur bones. Breathe into the whole circumference of the lowest ribs. Imagine the breath is a gentle wind rippling across the surface of the diaphragm. okay. You can stay with those and do them again, or bring a blanket if you need one in front of the chair and come on to your shins. You can also come back to the cobra or to the runner's stretch. So if this pose on your knees doesn't feel good, any of the previous poses will work. If you have a bolster, you can bring it onto your calves, but we won't use it yet. Bring your hands to the chair, palms pressing down, and inhale. Lengthen up the spine as you root your tail. Broad across your collarbones, lift from behind with your shoulder blades. Open the heart, lengthen the neck. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Hug in the banks of your river and root down into the outer legs. Root up the side bodies to the armpits. Lengthen up to the armpits, even up the side neck. And exhale, release, and sit back onto your bolster. Fluid breath. Notice if there is a quiet that you're cultivating inside the body. And then come back up for our next camel pose. You can, if it's comfortable to you, can roll your toes under. You can also choose to set your bolster. Most of them are flatter on one side and taller on another. I like starting with the tallest side up because I can get more length in my back body. So I like starting with the highest, most open versions, and then we see how far we can work in. Hands pressed down onto the bolster, rooting the tailbone, lift the length of the spine, resting the head back, lift the heart. Fluid breath, the banks of the river hug in to support your lengthening side bodies. You can play with being on fingertips or your metacarpal arch or your palms. And then exhale and rest back. Those look really nice. Fluid breath. We want these poses to be about strengthening and opening, not about collapse or any kind of pinching. So make sure that length comes before lift. Let's try one more. Coming back up. If you rolled your toes under this time, maybe you keep your feet flat. And we inhale. Let's bring the hands to the chair one more time first and press down onto the front of the chair. Root your tailbone, lengthen up the spine. So lift through the pelvic floor. Lift and lengthen, open the collarbones and lift the heart. Activate the banks of your river and really find that support. And then step your hands back to the bolster. We're rooting down into the bolster. Lift and lengthen the backside body. Beautiful arm alignment, Sharon. Fluid breath, really broad, open heart, Anna. Susie, John, these all look really, really good. You've got the length. One more deep inhale. And exhale, relax. Notice if it's easier to sit upright with your heart over your pelvis, palate over your heart after these back bends. In fact, let's come up and sit on the chair for a moment and just feel that. Come forward on the chair enough, or back on the chair enough, depending on how tall you are, that you can be right on your sit bones and your pubic bone and tailbone are pretty level. And then just feel into balancing heart over pelvis, palate over heart, keeping the collarbones broad and the shoulder blades strong on the back. You can even here activate the banks of your river up into the armpits. Activate the sides of the neck long and release. Okay, so our final standing pose then will be our dancing warrior, our dancer pose, natarajasana. So you can use the chair if you'd like, you can use the wall, or you can do this in the center of the room. If you used a strap with your hands, then you'll use that again. If you are using the chair, you can come a little deeper into the pose probably now. You could move the chair slightly back, still step the front leg forward, draw down the wall, and broad across the shoulder girdle, find a lift to the heart. So the leg's a little bit behind you, but be careful with that. You don't have to go too far, but that's a way to stretch open the psoas pathway. Okay? Those of you who want to come to the wall, make sure that you're far enough from the wall that you'll be able to hinge forward into dancer, lifting the back knee and lifting the heart and the gaze. Fluid breath. Stay active in the outside of the foot. Yes, so you roll the foot into the lifting hand. These look good. Fluid breath. Grounding into the four corners of your standing foot, lifting the three spacious arches. We lengthen up the leg, checking in with the knee. Come through the pelvic floor, lengthen into the spine, and perhaps you walk your fingertips up the wall. And you even could isometrically draw down the wall to lift your heart and gaze. And then perhaps you float your fingers off. Fluid breath. Where can you quiet the pose? And exhale, release. Pause in your mountain pose. Step your feet a little wider and do some figure eights with your hips. Let your hips release gently. They don't have to be big, strong figure eights. Just let the musculature of your pelvis and low back move a little bit. Come into quieting the body by remembering it's water. Let the water move easily. And then step back in and lift to the next side. Now, if you lift up and you feel like your foot's all bunched up underneath you, bring the foot back down and plug in your transverse arch, stretch back to the heel. Really plant those four corners thoughtfully and lift the foot. Pause in your runner's stretch to find length through that quad and lift to the heart, because we want to maintain that beautiful length that you had in your camel pose. As you're ready, you stretch the knee back behind you as you stretch the heart forward. You may walk your fingers up the wall, lifting into the pose. You may hinge over the forward leg. Fluid breath. Rolling the foot open into the supporting hand, staying broad across the back foot transverse arch. Yeah, beautiful. Broad across the shoulder girdle, relaxing the jaw. And then exhale and release. Come back to your mat for mountain pose. Float heart over pelvis, palate over heart. Open the wings of your collarbones and bring the shoulder blades like loving hands onto your back. Relax the length of the arms and let the arm bones dangle away from the shoulder girdle. Root the tail and lift the heart. Fluid breath. If your mind is active, invite it to be quiet and to just feel into the wisdom of the body, gently modifying towards more ease as we stand here. And release. Okay, let's come to the floor. Please have your bolster, your yoga strap, and your blocks, and a pillow or a blanket. We will do our bound Baddha Konasana in a few moments. But first, let's start with blocks underneath the sacrum for a bridge pose. So you can use the bolster if that's more comfortable for you, or even a folded blanket. If you like the blocks because you can go from low to medium, then bring the blocks in, side by side under your sacrum. And rest your arms open, palms up. Rest into your bridge pose and allow the front body to relax and drape over the back body. Let the front body become like a sleeping child, really relaxing into the deep quiet of sleep. Notice how this deep relaxation of the front body may put some weight, like a weighted blanket, onto your intestines, relaxing the intestines. Let your jaw and eyes relax back. The muscles of your cheeks and forehead relax. If this position feels good to you and you want a little more psoas stretch, then lift the blocks to medium. And rest again into your bridge. If that at all feels like it pinches your lumbar spine, lift to your transverse arch on your feet, lift your sacrum off the blocks, reach the tailbone for the backs of your calves, and then set the sacrum back down. Take the shoulders away from the sacrum and lengthen the neck and rest back down. If there's still any pinching in the low back, come back down to the lower blocks or to a folded blanket. Now really let yourself rest again. Just being here is a stretch for your psoas muscle. And now float one leg up and the other to join it, lifting your feet towards the sky. Flex and point your feet. Your feet did a lot of work today. Take them a little wider and circle the feet. Stretch the toes wide and bring them back together. Circle the other way. And now take the right foot overhead and the left foot long and flex and point. Stretching the fascia of the legs, allowing the blood and lymph that might have pooled during the standing practice to flow down towards the pelvis. Switch, left leg overhead, and flex and point. And take it right into riding a bicycle. Fluid motion, nice and slow. Beautiful. Nice length, everyone. Fluid breath. Notice if you're over efforting in your feet. Right now, let the feet relax. They did a lot of work earlier. Balance poses are great work for strengthening your arches. Take your bicycling backwards. Stay with your three-dimensional breath. Let your shoulders and arms be quiet here. Your hands relaxed. Now bring both legs back up towards the sky. And remember, the circles can be as small as you'd like. Take your feet wide, maybe as wide as the mat, down the mat, heels together and back up. Yes, this is going to be a little core strengthening work, but we are winding the practice down. So mostly we're just wanting our legs up to release the blood and the lymph. Fluid breath. The circles can be as relaxed or effortful as you like. Wherever you are, try to make it easeful and quiet. Come back up the midline and go down and open and back up. Fluid breath. A lot of great leg strengthening today. So come back to center and let your knees and feet soften. And just rest here. With your pelvis on a lift, this is a wonderful place to practice your three-dimensional breath, opening the whole circle of your lowest ribs. And then let your knees bend a little more in towards your heart and flow one foot towards the floor, lightly landing, and then the next. Gently lift up off your props and lower down for some somatic walking. Pressing into one foot, lift that same side hip. Reach the lifting hip knee out over the toes. A great release for the lumbar spine. For a moment, count how many rocks you get to an inhale and how many rocks you get to an exhale. And see if you can slow the breath and the movement down. Come to neutral with your spine and nod tailbone towards earth, tailbone towards sky a few times. And then draw one leg into your chest and the next and circle them wide apart and back together again. So we warm up the hips for our final supported restorative, which is going to be Supta Baddha Konasana. If that pose doesn't speak to you, feel free to take something else. And if you'd like to take it, let's roll ourselves over, bring the bolster in, bring your pillow onto your bolster, and bring your strap around your torso. Make sure the buckle's forward where you can reach it, so you have this loop of the strap. And make the strap big enough that you can bring it easily around your feet. So you bring it over the toes, towards the pinky toe side of the foot. And then you can tighten the strap. Make sure the back of the strap is around your sacrum. And tighten it in so it's snug enough to hold you, but it isn't causing you to kind of be too cinched in, too pinched in. Bring the blocks in at an angle to support your knees and roll yourself back into the pose. Let your arms rest out to the side. If you want to use an eye pillow, you can bring that in. A little late to say that if you're already strapped up. Sorry. Let your arms rest and your breath fill your body. There was a lot happening for the body today in this practice because you were working on strengthening feet and legs, on opening hips, and staying with your three-dimensional breath. But you are also doing some pretty major heart opening in the practice. So for a few moments, breathe into your heart center and feel the spanda, the stretch of the inhale at the sternum and the inner ribs and the heart. The relax of the exhale. Notice if there are any emotions that want to be free to move. And if there are, see if they can flow. And that flow will eventually carry us towards quiet. Now gently invite your heart and your mind towards stillness and silence. With each exhale, invite the body to deeply relax. And if the mind or heart are still active, it's okay. Maybe they really need to be listened to. Oh, gently draw energy back into your fingers and toes. And if you're still strapped in, release your legs from the strap. See if you can maintain whatever quiet you've developed in the practice as you slowly roll yourself over and rest. If we just take a restorative like that for 4 minutes, we have the opportunity to completely reset the nervous system. Let's gently lift ourselves back up and come to our comfortable seat. Thich Nhat Hanh says, all the wonders of life are already here. They're calling you. If you can listen to them, you will be able to stop running. What we all need is silence. Stop the noise in your mind in order for the wondrous sounds of life to be heard. Let's inhale our hands to our hearts. May we hear the wondrous sounds of life. Thank you for being in class. Namaste. Thank you.